Welcome back to another episode of the Deeply Rooted Business Podcast. My name is Jess, your operational expert. I'm here with my lovely co host, Rachel, our marketing mastermind. Today, we're going to be talking about, since we're just headed into the official back half of the year, halfway done, what to do if you're not hitting the revenue goals that you set for yourself at the beginning of 2024, and how you can really push in Q3 and Q4 so that you can end the year strong.
I think this is something that a lot of people are probably experiencing a very slow Q1, kind of pushed into a very chaotic Q2. So we're going to really try to reset and be a little bit more intentional in the back half of the year while still driving revenue, because that's probably the most important thing as we are trying to reach these big old goals that feel probably very daunting right now. So we'll break things down pretty simple for everyone and then dive into some hopefully actionable things that you can walk away from this episode with.
Yeah. So we're going to take you through one of my favorite frameworks that I use when taking action in your business, and that is assess, align, and act. Or I think we have them here as like reflect, identify, action. We're taking through these three steps. And if you didn't know, I'm probably going to say that you should pause and do a quarterly plan. I was just sharing with Rachel kind of how I feel like I'm starting to get pulled in a bunch of different directions and a little bit overwhelmed. And whenever I start feeling those feelings, I know it's kind of like a time to step back and reset. And that's not my natural tendency because it seems like I have a lot to do on my plate. I just want to keep going. I don't have time to pause and reflect and all of these things. But I know that that's just a lie that my brain is telling me. And that if I make the space to have a quarterly reset or a seasonal reset with myself, then that's just going to benefit me in the spaces of just mental clarity and focus down the road. So I'm committing right now that probably next Monday, I'm going to do my seasonal reset.
Yeah, that seasonal reset was very, very helpful last time I did it. And it set a bunch of goals, and I have been tracking my goals and making sure that I'm actually reaching them. But it's just wild because that energy of just pushing through and not avoid, like just keep going kind of thing. But really, this is one of the first steps that we're talking about, and is like slowing down and reflecting is one of the most powerful things that you can do in your business by just laying everything out, assessing the energy of what you're allowing to continue forward, and all of that. So, we want to be auditing essentially our inbound flow, because if your main goal is to be, I guess not inbound flow, because I always say inbound flow for nurture sequences, but inbound audit. So, if your main goal is to be converting, you need to make sure that the people coming into your funnel are the right person, it's the right prospect, the right awareness level, and all of that. So, just in this inbound audit, what are some of the things that we're covering and kind of looking at and breaking down so that we can go forward a little bit more clear?
Yeah, and I don't even know if I would call it, I mean, what I'm thinking of is like an inbound audit. How are people getting into your world? Are they converting at the conversion points that you think they are? If you have multiple offers, are there any particular offers that are selling better than others? Are there any particular offers that you're enjoying delivering more than others? Because it is important too, especially as someone who has multiple really different types of offers. I like to figure out, what do I want to sell this quarter almost. And then are there any gaps or resources in delivering that service? Any place that can be simplified? Anywhere you can bring on more support that you can eliminate? Anything you can delegate? Anything that you want to automate? So just doing a kind of, Rachel calls it a customer journey. I call it a profit flow, like how the profit comes into your business of your entire business. And that's usually where I start with most of the clients I'm working at, and I can really see like, oh, we need to turn this dial or tweak this or simplify this to really make some good headway for the next quarter.
Yeah. Because I do think if you're pushing forward and not really reflecting back on things, there's so many disconnects. And it's not bad disconnects. It could almost just be like two ships passing in the night. Like your ideal client may be at one particular stage, but you're kind of forcing another stage of maybe offer B in your offer suite. You're like, I really want to sell this one, but your ideal client is actually living and thriving and engaging in offer A. And so you're like, without that stopping and listening to what's actually happening in your audience, what people are responding to, or even like the types of leads that are coming into your space right now, you could just be missing out on a lot of money that if you just shifted to a different offer in your suite that's already set up and everything, that you could be capturing these people that are coming in and are a lot more primed for your space. So some of the things, tangibles that you can be looking at in how leads are coming is like, what questions are they asking on your discovery calls? Which resources are being actively downloaded right now, and then really trying to understand where they're at in their journey right in this moment instead of trying to force and say, I really need to sell offer B when they're like, but we want this one. You know what I mean? So I would say that's the first step. Second step in reflect is really diagnosing what the real problem is. So is it a you're not getting enough leads? So is it a funnel problem, an awareness problem? Or is it you're getting leads in, but you're not converting them? And that could be a conversion problem. So really understanding where the problem actually is. And I say this all the time with A/B testing, where it's like, you're not going to be A/B testing the inside of your email if nobody's actually opening the email itself. So understanding where your problem is at is the biggest time saver and can really put you on the right path so that you're not wasting a lot of time.
That is so right, Rachel, because I have the tendency, and I know I've shared this before, is like I am a creator. I like to create new offers. So if I am not making money in my business, I think you go where you're most comfortable. So my first initial reaction is to always create a new offer. And you can ask Rachel, I probably have like 50 amazing offers, but
It's
that's not
true.
my problem. That's not my problem. My problem is top of funnel awareness. So I am aware of this now that this is a problem that I have a tendency to create. And I was just sharing with Rachel before we hopped on officially that I am really challenging myself this quarter to not create anything new and to just reuse the offers or resell the offers and the content because I have tons of content too. And I have like 18 freebies. Like, I do not need to create anything new. None of that is my issue. My issue is getting in front of more eyeballs. So
Mhm.
that is my quarterly plan is to work on top of funnel and not create anything else new on the back end, even if I have an idea to do so. Do you find
Exactly.
yourself leaning into one that you're more comfortable with?
I mean, I have had, and this is so funny, I've had the same offer suite slightly evolved in deliverables and the ideal client and everything, but the exact same offer suite for the last 2+ years. Don't really add a lot to it. If I do, it's not really anything on my retainer side. It's more on my intensive side because I'm like, oh, this would be a fun cash injection kind of thing. But I think so my conversion rates are always pretty steady, but my biggest lull is the creation side. So what Jess's biggest opportunity is my biggest weakness because when it comes to like saying the same thing and creating new things, I just get so like, why do I have to do that kind of thing? Even though I do it daily for my clients in their newsletters and all of that. So it's quite funny the things that we resist in our business versus like the things that we know and are actively telling our clients. Cause yeah, I'm right there with you, but we're aware of it now, right? So we're gonna hold each other accountable that I will be more in create mode and you will be more in conversion mode because you have all of the things that you need done.
All the back end stuff is built. I just need to shout it to the road, put out more billboards that the stuff is here and it's available for you. And one of the ways I'm doing this, and this is moving into the next step, is align. So looking at all your data, both quantitative and qualitative. So quantitative, the numbers, what is actually making you money. And then qualitative is how you feel or like the feedback that you've gotten from the customer and determining, and I think this is like the number one thing is determining what you're gonna sell when. And I feel like
Mhm.
that sounds so sick, but I think it's a fundamental step that gets skipped when people are creating content or when people are planning their quarter. It's where I almost feel like that's the foundational piece, but it just gets skipped over. I don't know, maybe a few thoughts of why that happens. Or that's what I did is I was like, for this month, I am only selling, and maybe we get sick of it. You said you get sick of talking about it. I'm only talking about this thing, and I'm going to challenge myself to come at it from different angles. Because I think what happens is people will start to talk about it and they'll talk about it for 1 week and they'll be like, I didn't convert anything or I didn't get any leads. So it's either not working or they'll get bored about talking about it and switch. And it's really that predictable marketing is what's going to build your predictable profit.
There's so many things where if you have a very expansive offer suite, you have a little bit of FOMO about not talking about everything. But the most success I have seen is when you really dedicate these sprints to each offer to kind of talk through, like, build up your awareness to the problem aware, to the solution aware, to then getting back down into regular engagement and educational content. But it's so funny because so many people just blast out, "Oh, this offer, this offer, this offer." And, like, the saying of "a confused buyer never buys" is 100% accurate. Because if you're blasting and they're all really great offers, your ideal client could be seeing themselves in, like, 4 or 5 different offers and being like, "Oh, well, it's not really clear what I actually need," and then they don't make a decision. And at least for my clients, the success I have seen is when we really break down their promotional phases into a single offer sprint. Think of not a launch, but like very much structured to a launch where you're saying we're doing a ramp up, well, then we're going to be actively selling this. And yeah, it gets repetitive, but repetitive is like really where it's at with drilling it in, especially with the time, like the attention span of current buyers and the amount of information that they need in order to make a decision. People are no longer making that snap investments or those kind of decisions that are like, oh, I knew I needed this kind of thing. So there's a lot smarter buyers and you really have to hit them around like 14 plus touch points. So like be repetitive. And that doesn't mean just post 14 times because not 100% of your views or your audience is going to see every single thing you post. You have to be posting an exponential amount of times in order for those 14 points to actually like hit.
Yeah, and I think it's, like, completely opposite, maybe and this is everybody, but what my brain wants to do. I think we've been trained on getting immediate gratification. I posted this morning and didn't get any likes or responses or anything from it. I'm like, "This sucks, I suck, I'm gonna scrap." In my brain, I was already, "What else can we sell?" Like, I went into that panic mode. "What if I focus on this all month and, like, I don't make any money? Should I be focusing on this offer instead?" And it's like, but no, this is really what I want to do. And I just need to figure out a way to message it. Or maybe people just need to hear about it more. Or maybe everybody's just busy because they're coming off a holiday weekend. You have to give it its due diligence. Being repetitive, actually, everyone wants a more simple business, and being repetitive is a more simple business. Rachel and I were tag teaming on a new client. I'm not going to say her name, but like looking at our messaging, it's very repetitive, but it worked. We can see
Yeah.
her numbers and it works. The first time I went into the back end of her business when I was doing her audit, I was like, I'm making life way too hard for people I'm trying to do. And this is what works. So yeah, embrace simplicity, plan your promotional periods. I mean, do you recommend monthly, week? What is your like when you're doing these single offer sprints? What is your usual timeline?
I mean, I think 3 weeks with 1 week of a ramp up really is that sweet spot, but I'm pretty positive we have an episode on this where we talk about the various phases of your marketing calendar where it's like that creative and the promotion, all of those things.
Yeah.
Those sprints are really, I think, in that 3-week window because if you think about, like, you're not, like, actively launching, but you are just talking about your product, and I think this is something that and maybe this is just a little rant that I'm gonna throw out there now, where it's like, so many people are afraid to talk about their product because they don't wanna be salesy, but we are freaking businesses. We have to talk about our products. We have to talk about these things. We cannot overeducate and just give, 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 give until people buy from us. Like there needs to be product promotion here. So it's really just important that like you're going to feel uncomfortable if you're in that educational space right now where you're just overeducating and then you transition to these kind of like month-long sprints where you're just talking to one particular person about one particular offer and really understanding that it's necessary. It's so incredibly necessary. So I would say if you're going to start at 3 weeks of just active solution focused messaging and maybe like 1 week, depending on how aware your audience is of problem awareness.
Love that. Yeah. And that's what you do. That's like the bulk of what your quarterly planning should be is planning out your promotional periods. And then your projects stem from what do I need to create to make this promotional period even more for the most part. So that is our align is picking what you're going to promote, when, and being consistent with that. And then it's all about taking action. And I think it's funny because we just talked about being repetitive. And our first note that we wrote for action, our note was like, go back to what's worked before.
I have something to add to align. So, really understanding those opportunities. Don't go into sales mode. And I take back everything what I just said about if you're going to go into these promotional sprints, don't go into sales mode until you are aware of where your clients are at. So, are your leads and your prospects? So, understand, is your messaging working? Is there demand for your product? How aware are your leads? Are you targeting the right ideal client? Know these things first before you start hyping into promotion mode, or else you could be in that exact situation where I said earlier, where one client is ready for offer B and you're promoting offer A and you're just two ships in the night kind of thing. So I know we did an episode, which I really think it would be really powerful to re listen to and understanding what the four reasons why your offer may not be selling now and go back and break down that as just proactive measures before you go into a promotional period.
Well, I think there's like the way to like quickly gauge that is like, okay, have you sold this offer, but you just want to sell more? Then your messaging might is probably dialed in if you've been able to sell it before, like it's validated. If you have not sold your offer at all because it's a new offer, or maybe it was an offer and it's just not resonating with your clients anymore, then go back and listen to episode that why your offer isn't selling and then go into your promotional period. And if it's a brand new spanking offer, you could probably listen to that episode and make sure that you're like hitting all of those key points before you start promoting it. But also just know if you're experimenting with a new offer, I am experimenting with a new offer. That is because I have already hit my revenue goals for these months, and anything with this new offer is going to be
Yeah.
lanyard. That's really, do y'all know what lanyard means? A little something extra. That's a New Orleans term. Icing on the cake in other parts of the country. So that's when it's a good strategic place if you're calling pull to a new offer to start creating a new one. Don't do what I did at the beginning of the year and create a new offer and try to sell it when you need the money because that's just coming from scarcity. It's not a good look. So I actually launched a new offer in the very beginning of the year. Wasn't working, wasn't dialed in for whatever reason. Had to go back to selling what I originally was selling the original way. But now that I've built myself like a little revenue runway, I can experiment, have some more fun.
So just had to place that disclaimer there first. So, really understanding the key systems in your business that are actually working and continuing those things instead of scrapping and starting from scratch and kind of doing all of these things. So, really being consistent in what works is super, super important. So that's like if you want to be able to get referrals in, reaching out consistently for your referrals is absolutely key. Like that's something I feel like I miss out on so much because my clients never leave me. Is that I'm just like, I don't really have anybody to just super tap into. My clients are always like referring me out. But if you have a referral system, if that's something that works for you, making sure you're doing that super consistently. If you're selling, let's just say, or pitching, and pitching works for you. Doing that consistently and systemizing it so that you're not kind of just dropping what's working and going and trying some new shiny object syndrome.
The next step is after you finding what's working is then two, if you've identified the opportunity like mine is top of funnel awareness conversions, then figuring out where those friction points are and being able to systemize that. Why do I create all the content and it never leaves my notion is basically the question I've tried to figure out. How can I make sure that it leaves my notion? And that's where setting up systems, automating and delegating have really like, I don't know why I didn't hire a VA longer.
For so long.
I remember ran for so long. She's amazing. And like my literal goal this month is how can I make more money? She edits this. So like, how can I make more money so I can get her for more hours? I'm working on it. I'm working on it hard, y'all.
So, really focusing on what's working and doing that and systemizing it so that it's optimized. The second thing I would say to actionably generate more sales is by really improving your conversion rates. So, if you know where your conversions are not happening, and a lot of people don't. So, if you don't, that's totally okay too. But if you know where your conversions like aren't happening or if you have visibility on that. So when I typically sign a new client and we set up all of their tracking and everything, I'm seeing usually from their email list somewhere between like a 2 and 3% conversion rate. And that's the lowest hanging fruit that we can do is kind of like jump in and say, let's optimize this messaging and let's get it to 8. We don't need to improve the amount of people that are coming into this current funnel. We just need to improve the amount of conversions happening from the funnel. So it's like, keep doing what you're doing to get the people there, but let's improve the messaging, let's improve the call to actions and get that conversion rate higher because the audience is there. They just need to be converted properly. So that means A B testing your engagement. That means A B testing certain types of messaging. And when people hear A/B testing, they get very, very overwhelmed by it, but it's literally saying the exact same thing, but you're breaking it into 2 different ways. So if you have very analytical buyers or you have very emotional buyers, putting an analytical message versus an emotional message and seeing how well they do can give you so much insight into why your audience takes action and what you can implement across the board so that you can have better engagement and ultimately better conversion. So it really is just one of those things that it's less work, but it's more in depth because you're in your audience and in your space and kind of like knowing them a little bit more. So you're being a little bit more intentional about how you're talking to them rather than the effort of just getting them on your space and your audience and yada yada.
Well, it's a quicker path to revenue. Like I always like to think about 'cause we had conversions when we were in like a brick and mortar store and retail as well. And the days that it was raining out and there weren't a lot of people walking into the store, that was a different focus. Like those days were focused on converting. How can we convert every single person that comes in here? And then also, how can we increase their? So I know Rachel talks about lifetime value. Like, how can you tap back into those people, which is would way easier than to be like we simply couldn't like go grab people and like drive them to the mall and get them into the store. It's like this was like the quickest way for us to do it at that point. Conversely, when there were like a lot of days where there was traffic, where there's a lot of days, we had to just kind of almost be focused on still making sure our conversion was okay. But it was more about how can we just sell the most stuff versus really focusing on that value of each customer as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes I have to think of digital things in a physical realm as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so last action step. Jess, what are we doing in order to increase value in Q3, Q4 to improve revenue?
We talked about the action is like promo sales planning. So it's actually sticking to your promo and sales plan. So I think one thing that gets skipped during promo and sales plan is you can lay out this gorgeous promotional calendar, this gorgeous sales plan. But if you don't have a creation plan or an implementation plan to get that promo plan to bring it to life, then it's not going to happen. So it's equally important when you're setting up your promotional plan and you're marking out how many emails you're going to create and how many posts you're going to do to also go in and create a project plan for each of those pieces of content. So when are they going to get done? If you're solo or small team, what days are you batching like what emails? And that was the major miss for me is that I had all of these amazing content ideas, but I wasn't blocking off space into my calendar to sit down and say, this is when I'm actually going to get this done. So in my promo planner in Notion, I now have space blocked out where I mapped out the days that I want to put out content, but then I also have marked off the days that I'm going to create the content that's going to. And I think that's like a big miss too, is not actually putting a plan to put your plan into action.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to project plan yourself, especially if you don't have a big team, but also if it's not your natural state of existing. But if you're not a natural organization person, having that broken down, because if it's not top of mind, you're not going to do it. And so when you can have a moment to say, this is the project plan breakout day, and you're saying, this is the steps we're doing, put this on creation day, this on writing day, blah, 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 blah. Like it really does make it a lot easier for you to consume rather than like a week going by and you being like, what do I need to do? Or trying to like do it every single week where you're saying like, okay, this week is talking about this and we need to write this newsletter and these 5 social posts and we got to do all of those things. It just gets very overwhelming. So really being intentional in how you project plan yourself in like backing into these like promotional periods is super key. So you don't self-sabotage because we're all busy. Client work, all of that stuff is, picking up and everything. So just making sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure is key.
Yes, and I will add one more thing with self-sabotage, and it's like when you first start to map out these things, you can say like, "I wanna create 5 posts." Give yourself permission, like, if you give yourself 2 hours to create Instagram posts and you only create 3 posts, that's fine. Like, it's probably better than what you've done in the past, and just know that now your cadence is 3 posts a week and that you can work up to those things. I think that I had, like, in my brain that this creating a newsletter was supposed to take so much time, and that's what stopped me from doing it. But really, once you've got your system set up and your plan in place, it only takes like an hour or 2 each week, maybe even less than that.
Please say that louder for everyone
Only takes
else
an
because
hour
that's
or 2. I really thought it was gonna the first time you do it, it's gonna take a long time, and then maybe not won't wanna do it again. Like, it's gonna be a really long time to do last week's, but, like, next week, I know it's not gonna take me any time because I already know what I'm gonna put in there, and the template's already made, and it's just gonna be plug and play funness.
exactly. Okay, so we're reaching a point where we never like to get, which is over 30 minutes with our episodes. So let me do a quick recap so that everybody has like kind of like a fresh mind. So if you're not hitting your revenue goals right now, here's kind of how to make that pivot for Q3, Q4 pushes. So first off, we want you to reflect and do a little bit of an audit of how your people are getting into your systems, audit your discovery calls, audit your conversations, what resources are being downloaded, what posts are being engaged with, and understand like if you're talking to the wrong person, but this person's ready to buy, like you should be making these pivots intuitively in your business kind of thing. So really being able to diagnose the problem as far as if it's top of funnel awareness or if it's a conversion problem. So that's step one is take a step back, reflect on what's happening currently and then the last quarter back in your business so that you're not pushing forward with all this energy and really not making a lot of effort. Second thing is kind of identifying the opportunities that are most engaging right now or like the opportunities that are like the warmest so that you can really determine like where's the most bang for your buck happening. Whether that means you need to make shifts to your messaging because your messaging isn't hitting, you need to increase your top of funnel like count and your numbers and your reach. Or if your problem is just your leads aren't very aware, you need to get a little bit deeper into your customer journey and start understanding what that awareness bridge looks like to your ideal clients. So that's step two. Step three is now getting into action. So, really focusing on the systems that work for you, optimizing those so that they become kind of like less manual and a little bit more structured so that you can be super consistent with those as well. A B testing some of the lowest hanging fruit, which is your conversion rates, where you don't necessarily have to increase how many people are getting into your list. You just need to increase how many people are converting on your list or even in your audience. A B testing kind of works everywhere. And then really honoring and focusing on your promo slash sales periods. Project manage yourself so that you're not self sabotaging and then stepping back into just understanding that it's not like one line item, but that it's like probably 15, 20 things that need to get done. So if you break those up, it's actually a lot more feasible. So, did I hit everything?
I think you did. So thank you guys for listening. Sorry that this was a longer episode, but it was very juicy and we obviously had a lot to say about it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a review if you found this helpful. We'd love to hear feedback. Say hi to us either on Instagram or TikTok. And then make sure to tune in next week where we're going to be covering one of my topics that I am very passionate about, which is business habits to avoid burnout. So until next week,
We're
we're
rooting
rooting for
for
you.
you.